They will never say it directly, but the world has quietly decided that you are finished. That if you didn't arrive somewhere impressive by 30, you probably never will. They call it being realistic, but in truth, it's a silent verdict. And the most dangerous part is not that others believe it. It's that you slowly started believing it yourself. You scroll through social media and watch younger people rise faster, get noticed sooner, achieve loudly. And somewhere beneath the surface, a thought forms that you never say out loud. Maybe I missed my chance. It shows up when someone casually asks what you're doing these days. It's not dramatic shame. It doesn't scream. It just sits inside you, whispering that you should have figured life out already. But what if that whisper is a lie you inherited, not a truth you discovered? What if the past decade wasn't wasted time but preparation? What if you weren't falling behind but being shaped? Because there's something few people admit. The strongest fires don't ignite instantly. Early success shines brightly, but it's often fragile. You, meanwhile, have been learning things no shortcut can teach: endurance, discernment, emotional depth, silence. The world worships youth because youth is visible and loud, but the people who change things permanently usually arrive quietly after they've been tempered. You are not behind schedule. You are in the process of becoming. And at a certain point in life, something shifts. You stop chasing approval and start constructing something that outlives you. Maybe this delay wasn't punishment at all. Maybe it was protection. You weren't meant to rise while your identity was still unstable. You were meant to rise once your roots could hold the weight. The world measures worth by calendars and milestones, but awareness doesn't follow clocks. So if you've ever looked at yourself and felt that strange tension, the sense that something inside you hasn't even begun yet, this is why. You're not meant to catch up. You're meant to arrive. There's a belief so widespread that most people absorb it without noticing. It sounds reasonable. It sounds mature. It says you're too old to start again, that your window is closed, that ambition has an expiration date. No one says it outright, but it's embedded everywhere. In media, in hiring practices, in a culture obsessed with prodigies and overnight success. The message is clear: succeed early or accept that you never will. And if you're past 40 and still evolving, the world often mistakes that courage for delusion. But pause for a moment. Who decided that human potential peaks before the mind even fully matures? Who sold the idea that your most meaningful work must happen before you truly know yourself? It's a story repeated so often it feels like fact, but it isn't. When we're young, we mistake speed for significance. We believe visibility equals value. We rush not to build something solid, but to keep up with someone else's timeline. That rush wasn't ambition, it was fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of being the only one, still uncertain. And the real danger was never moving slowly. It was believing that speed determined worth. That belief didn't originate in you. It was installed over time, reinforced until it became automatic. Napoleon Hill described this as habitual thought becoming law, repetition turning suggestion into identity. The voice telling you it's too late isn't wisdom. It's residue, cultural programming left behind by a society that confuses youth with value. Look closely at what youth actually offers. Energy, yes, but also instability, fragile confidence, dependence on external validation. Much early success rests on shaky foundations, applause-driven, image-based, hollow at the core. Many who rise fast collapse just as quickly because they built for attention, not meaning. And yet, here you are, maybe slower, maybe tired, but still questioning, still sensing there's more. And there is. If you're willing to dismantle the timeline you were handed, the moment you stop measuring yourself against borrowed clocks, you reclaim your freedom. Some of the most powerful lives don't begin in youth. They begin in quiet resolve at 47, 58, or 63, when someone finally says, "I'm not finished." Not loudly, not publicly, just honestly. And from there, everything shifts. If youth were truly the peak, why do so many people unravel right after achieving it? Because success that arrives before identity creates lives that don't belong to the person living them. Performance replaces purpose. Applause becomes oxygen. And when it fades, so does the sense of self. Late bloomers are different. They've endured obscurity. They've survived being overlooked. They build for depth, not recognition. They carry pattern recognition, emotional resilience, and clarity earned through mistakes. Rejection didn't break them. It hardened them intelligently. Ego fades. Precision sharpens. Carl Jung called this individuation, becoming who you actually are, not who you were told to be. And that process rarely happens early, because early life is about masks. The real self emerges later, after illusions crack. History confirms it. Colonel Sanders was 65 when he founded KFC. Vera Wang entered fashion at 40 after living several other lives first. They didn't bloom late. They bloomed when they were ready. And readiness comes from depth, not haste. Consider someone like Antonio, fired at 48 after years of being dependable but invisible. When he stopped defining himself by what he'd been and started presenting who he chose to become, everything changed. Not overnight, quietly. He refined his identity, his language, his presence. 6 months later, the world responded, not because he shouted, but because he finally stood rooted. This is what late bloomers understand. Transformation doesn't announce itself. It happens in silence. The real battle isn't external. It's internal programming. The thoughts you repeat become commands. Your subconscious doesn't question them. It executes them. Most people practice autosuggestion unconsciously, rehearsing limitation until it feels like personality. New beliefs feel uncomfortable at first because they're unfamiliar, not because they're false. Feeling resistance is a sign of change, not delusion. Identity is practiced before it's embodied, but inner work collapses if the environment contradicts it. You cannot evolve while bathing in decay. Comforting voices that speak resignation will undo progress faster than doubt. You don't need isolation, but you do need boundaries, energetic ones. Conversations shape cognition. What you tolerate becomes internal law. Growth requires purification, not justification. Nostalgia, too, becomes dangerous when it chains you to versions of yourself that no longer exist. You don't miss the past. You miss the innocence of believing without shame. But that version of you was incomplete, not superior. Letting go of who you were is not betrayal, it's reinvention. Jung called it the death of the persona. Grief is part of growth. There's an in-between phase where you're no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming. It feels like emptiness, invisibility, confusion. Most people quit there because they mistake undefined for lost. But that space is sacred, like a seed underground, unseen but transforming. Comparison will tempt you. Noise will distract you. Don't rush. Those who change the world disappear before they return transformed. We live in a culture addicted to speed and starving for substance. That's why late bloomers matter. They don't chase relevance. They offer wisdom. They don't need to be viral. They aim to be timeless. Their fire doesn't scream. It steadies. And that quiet conviction builds what noise never can. You are not late. You are refined. Time isn't your enemy. Comfort is. Stay quiet, stay focused. Let the work shape you, because when you return, it won't be dramatic. It will be undeniable. Your story doesn't end in obscurity. It begins there.